sack, raising questions about how the abortionists ended this child's life. This isn't the first time this clinic has been under investigation. But before we get into that, listen, America, we have these pictures blurred, not because we want to hide anything, not because we want to tone down the graphic nature of what's taking place here. But America needs to understand 32 weeks, some of the babies' bodies found, fully developed heads, their skulls were crushed. One of the little girl's eyes were wide open. And the doctors did believe that they were at a state in their lives where they could feel pain. And anybody that sees these pictures, you don't see an animal. You don't see a clump of cells, as the left would like to call this. You don't see something that's lifeless, that doesn't feel pain. When you view these photos, and I encourage you guys, go to liveaction.com. You'll see these photos. These are human beings. They're not dolls. This is the reality of what abortion really is. It's murder. It's mutilation. It's ending human lives. And I always tell people, whenever these far left psychopaths that advocate for the murder of babies in wombs, and some of these people advocate for the murder of babies outside of wombs, we've been seeing that as of recently as well. It's horrific. This is how far this stuff really goes. But I always tell people that advocate for this stuff, you should watch one. You should look at the footage. You should look at the videos. Look at the pictures, at the reality of what you advocate for, the ending of a human life inside of the womb, midterm, late-term abortions, when you're taking a look at what that actually looks like. It's very graphic. People need to see it. They need to see it because some of these people, do you actually realize what you're advocating for? And it's really sinister when those that have seen these photos, with those that have seen these videos, that know just exactly what takes place when a human life is ended inside of the womb. It's more sinister when people know these facts, when they've seen this stuff, yet they still advocate for it anyways. And they still say, my body, my choice. That this is somehow a woman's right. No, the body's not yours. That's a separate human being inside of you. We've spoken to multiple women that have gone down that path, had these abortions, that have ended the life of another human being within them, that are miserable, that hate themselves, that want to kill themselves. They get addicted to drugs. They live with the guilt for the rest of their lives. But nobody wants to talk to them once they discover the harsh realities of what they actually did to the baby. No. They get cast by the wayside. They're only used for political purposes. No one wants to have a conversation with a broken woman that has gone through the abortion procedures and realizes that she murdered the baby in her womb. No one wants to talk to her when she realizes just exactly what she did. But people need to see the grim, harsh reality of what this looks like. These are human beings. These are not animals. And I guarantee you some of these leftists that advocate for this stuff care more about puppies than they do actual human beings. And that's the disgusting part in all of this. That people have advocated for these very things to take place. Human lives being crushed, murdered inside of the womb. We're not talking, this is not a political issue at all. This is not a left-leaning issue. This is not a right-leaning issue. This has nothing to do with politics. We're talking about human beings being murdered in the name of a political agenda. That's what's made it evil as well. This has nothing to do with your politics. This has everything to do with morality when you take a look at what's happening in the world that you live in. It's just been politicized because these politicians make it a political issue because they know that there's a bunch of emotional women out there that don't think these things through, and they absolutely gravitate towards this, and they get out there and they advocate for it, and they think they're fighting for something that's just. When this is an issue that deals with humanity, babies being murdered, I guarantee you none of these people would want to watch this happen in real time. It's disgusting. It's horrific. It hurts your heart. It makes you want to cry when you see these going over these photos with the team. It's hard for them to even look at this stuff because you're not meant to see stuff like this. You're not meant to do stuff like this. It's unnatural. Anyone that watches or anyone that loves to see the mutilation of bodies or the cutting to pieces of a human being is probably has some kind of psychological serial killing mindset. Nobody should want to see stuff like this, but when you do see it, it makes you sick to your stomach. Why? Because this is not meant to happen. We're not meant to mutilate babies like this. We are not meant to be murdering babies like this. Anyone that sees this stuff should be just out of their, this should piss you off. I'm going to be honest with you. This has gone way too far. And this is happening on a daily basis. That's the worst part. But this isn't the first time this clinic has been under investigation. In 2013, Dr. Cesar Santiago, who runs the Washington Surrogate Clinic, told Live Action that he cuts a baby's umbilical cord and waits for the child to die by cardiac arrest. Take a listen to what else this disgusting, evil, vile man says.
Technically, legally, we would be obligated to help it, to survive. But, it probably wouldn't. It's all in how vigorously you do things to help a fetus survive at this point. There's things you do. Obviously, you're here for a certain procedure. And if your pregnancy were, let's say you went into labor, the membranes ruptured, and you delivered before we got to the termination part of the procedure here, then we would do things we would
listen, there's no PG version of this. There's no acceptable version of this. There's no version of this where you are comfortable with this. This should make you very uncomfortable because maybe you've never seen anything like this before. Maybe you've heard about abortion. Maybe you've heard about botched abortions that take place. And maybe you think it's some kind of thing that's rare in the United States of America, let alone worldwide. But when people encounter stuff like this, when they encounter these doctors that think it's normal to slaughter a baby in the womb and even outside of the womb, you got to ask yourself, is this person a serial killer? And the answer to that is yes. Nobody in their right mind should take joy in committing such egregious crimes against humanity. These people are like mad scientists. These are sick people, murderous people in the brain. This is not okay. It's not good. And you have millions, you have thousands of people that take to the streets. They champion this. They praise this. They celebrate this. You've seen countless videos of women taking to the streets with fake blood, spraying it all over their bodies and fake baby dolls, making it look like they're being squeezed out, like they're going to kill them. Like this is not normal. It's demonic. It's satanic. It's evil. It's an agenda that's not political. This should not be a political issue for you. Anyone that sits here and sees photos like this or videos like this is going to be rocked to their core. And I guarantee you there's probably a lot of young people out there that don't think this stuff through, that don't quite understand what this looks like on camera or in a video. And this is why we show this stuff to you guys, because we want people to see the harsh realities of what has become politicized. We're not talking about, lowering taxes here. We're not talking about some kind of local issues that have to do with the economy. We're not talking about these. We're talking about human beings that are being slaughtered in the wombs of other human beings. And now we have political sides here in the United States of America and in the world that come out and celebrate and defend this kind of stuff. Who in their right mind is on that side? Whether left or right, like I said, it's satanic. It's evil. And to the women that have gone down that path, there's compassion, there's mercy, there's grace, there's the gospel. We always have to punch this side in because there are so many women out there that get left, that get thrown by the wayside. These leftists don't care. Of course, these leftists want you out there. It gets them votes. It gets them power. It's just a political agenda when all these people are out there saying, my body, my choice. Yes, we want the right to murder a child. We want the right to murder a human being. Not even thinking about what they're actually saying. Of course, these people want this. But then you get a woman that's deceived. She goes with the procedure. She goes down. She then realizes what she's done. The left is not there for her. And even aspects of the right. Christ forgives. There's forgiveness in this area as well. But we cannot be in a place where we accept this in a society, because this is murder. Well, my name is Drew Hernandez. These are the front lines, but TPUSA Live starts right now.
Preach to him, Drew. Thanks so much. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. This is what we're covering on the show today. First, VP Harris's chief of staff says so long. President Biden calls a former First Lady VP, and so much more in the daily briefing. Next, Paige Rue joins us to detail the latest push for gun control from the left. Then Allie and John James join us to talk about influencer culture and social media. And finally, we'll keep the social media chat rolling with Elon Musk buying a major stake in Twitter, followed by Motivation Monday in one last thing. Buckle up, people. TPUSA Live from HQ starts right now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. We're the mecca of young conservatism. I'll just say mecca.
Sure.
I think
Is that
so.
okay?
Why not?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
As long as we circle around the Mecca 7 times before entering. That's what I do every time before I get here.
Well, we got TPUSA contributors Isabel Brown, Jobob. I'm John Root.
The troublemakers today
I don't know what
together.
you're talking about.
Watch out. This is going to be fun. We're so glad you're here with us. We're going to start with the daily briefing. Obviously, VP Harris has been called a toxic leader,
Yeah,
a bully,
yeah,
and pretty incompetent,
yeah.
clearly.
All checks
and
out.
I wonder why.
Probably because of the significance of the passage of time.
That's it.
That's what
Very
I would
significant.
say. Is now we're hearing that our chief deputy of staff is quitting. Out of here. So we do know that a national security advisor has left. A top press aide has left. We know that press secretary Jen Psaki, she's gonzo too. She's going to MSNBC. But this is the 10th member that has left in the last 10 months. What do you think?
You go first.
Well, so
Jobob.
in Vice President Harris's situation, I think it's hilarious because I feel like a lot of the people that work in her inner circle clearly know her pretty well.
Yeah.
And given how she handles things, it's not necessarily that she would be bad to work with. She's just lazy. That's what I've deduced this down to. She has so much time to prepare for all of the things that she's going to say. Like, for example, Jamaica, the trip that she took down to Jamaica, where her most recent word salad, the entire flight there, I'm sure the chief of staff was saying, hey, let's say this, stick to the talking points. And then she gets there and just rambles for half an hour. And I would imagine the staff is like, all right, I can't get through to this woman. I'm out.
Yeah, I think it's different than that. First of all, high turnover rates in presidential administration
Yeah.
are nothing new. This
Probably
has
around,
been
like,
happening for a
midterms, too?
like all the time. I mean,
Like, all the
President Trump had one of the highest turnover
Yeah.
rates in his cabinet and high-ranking staff there in the White House of any president ever. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me. The White House is an incredibly fast-paced, constantly changing environment to work in. So the idea that people are quitting their jobs and moving on to other things,
And there's
that's
Michael
very,
Phelps for
very
you guys.
normal. What isn't normal to me is this repetitive, hey, we're coming out about our boss publicly, or even
Yeah.
attaching our name to it.
Yes.
This is a hostile work environment by pretty much every sense of the legal definition. And the whole country's just like, okay, cool. Sweet. Okay, cool.
Well, I think they're probably seeing the writing on the wall too. Like, these people all want to stay employed throughout the next administration, whichever one it is. And I don't think they want to hitch their wagons to VP Kamala Harris because she couldn't get elected dog catcher in a small town in Iowa, let alone president of the United States.
Well, maybe that's the point. She doesn't
And
have
I want to
get
let you know
elected.
there was an internal memo on Monday that announced a departure. I'm just going to read a few sentences here, saying it's been an honor of a lifetime to serve in this administration. Yeah, okay.
That's the normal.
And then, classic.
mumbo
15 months later, it's almost difficult to recall the magnitude of the challenges we faced when we came in, and from an unprecedented pandemic to a historically difficult economic circumstances. I'm trying to think, are those kind of subtle jabs, or are those kind of like
Interesting.
trying to make like sympathize, where it's like, oh, she's dealt with so much,
No, I think that's
but
an
they've
interesting
created so
point.
much disaster.
To say those two things in particular, because those are the two things that the administration is claiming and gaslighting that they've fixed. universally, when in reality we all know that's not true. That's really interesting.
She did fix the border, though. That's all
Yes.
taken care of. It's
Oh,
totally
yes.
fine
And
now.
she reminded us of the most important thing, the significance
Of the passage of time.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Borders are. Thank you. But we did find out the other day that Michelle Obama was a vice president.
Apparently.
Did you know that?
That's new.
That's coming from the commander-in-chief himself. Mind-blowing. Check out what he said.
And I'm deeply proud of the work she's doing as First Lady with Joining Forces initiative. She started with Michelle Obama when she was vice president and now carries on.
Okay, so I don't know if he's saying when Michelle Obama was vice president or when Jill Biden was vice president. Either way, neither of them held the office, obviously. I don't know, man. At what point are we all just going to be like, excuse me, sir, thank you for your time. It's time for you to go back to the basement, eat all the ice cream you want. We need someone who can actually understand what century we're in to run the country.
Sometimes I wish it was like the couch, where it's times where it's like, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. This is what I think, and just kind of interrupt for a hot second. President Biden, what are you saying right now? Can you can you clarify that? Just real quick before you keep going with this, so who are you saying is vice president? Because either way, you're wrong.
What I'm saying is I'm not sure what today's soup is. And I'm really trying to figure that out before I have my pudding.
What's the soup du jour? What's the soup of the day?
I can't.
Oh, man. And then, you know who Shannon Sharp is? You definitely know who that is because you're a Broncos fan. You know him. So Hall of Fame tight end, incredible football player, is on Fox Sports, has a big show with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. They go back and forth. And sometimes Shannon Sharp goes back and forth with people on Twitter. And he did a little Q&A. And this guy, just like a lot of people in sports, they're basically as left as they come.
Yeah.
So someone asked him, so this guy named Colton Pope asked the Hall of Famer, Shannon, do you still hate Donald? Talking about former President Donald Trump. And he quote tweeted it and said this, I'd rather pay $20 a gallon than have Trump in office. Hope that answers your question. Ladies and gentlemen, Trump derangement syndrome.
I think we actually might get there, which is the really sad thing. Steven asked me that the other day, Steven Davis. He was like, do you think we're going to get to $10 a gallon? I said, yeah, I absolutely do. I honestly could see us going to $20 a gallon. Because we are doing it to ourselves. We are refusing to make our own oil.
No.
But now we're depleting our reserves because that was the big result of all the pressure from importing everything from Russia. And we're not buying from Russia anymore, but we are buying from everybody who just sends their money to Russia, like Venezuela and Iran, apparently.
Great places.
So eventually we're
Really
all going to run out. We're not making anything new. Of course, the supply is going to go down and the demand is going to go up. I would not be surprised if gas hits $20 a gallon.
I thought it was Putin's fault. That's what I've been hearing from the White House.
You sweet honey baby.
Did you guys see the NBC poll that just came out, I think over the weekend, where 24% of Americans actually buy that? Nobody else buys that White House garbage. But Putin price hikes. No.
Sometimes the smallest amount of people are the most vocal, though.
Yeah.
So that's when it turns into they're obviously the vocal minority. So it's well, that's all I'm hearing online. That's all the tweets, and that's all the people jumping on TikTok I can't believe you did this to us, Vladimir.
I saw a President Biden, I did that sticker at the grocery store on the little credit card thing now.
I haven't seen them there.
I've always seen them at gas stations, but they're now at the grocery store. And nobody from the grocery store took it off either.
And you live in California.
I know.
That's pretty impressive.
We'll wrap up with this. With Shannon Sharp, I think if anything's a sense of privilege, it's that.
Disgusting.
It goes to show that you can afford it. Dude, you were in the NFL and made millions of dollars and still make millions of dollars with Fox Sports. Think about the people that are actually hurting right now and would much rather have some mean tweets and cheap gas than what we got right now. But we got a little message from our friends at Patriot Mobile. We will be right back to talk to Paige Rue about how the left is trying to push gun control even more.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now, more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies who fight for our rights and our beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to our causes And with your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got Isabel Brown, Jobob. I'm John Root. We're going to be joined by TPUSA contributor and host of Reloaded, Paige Root, in just a second. But we got to talk about what happened in Sacramento. And obviously don't want to make light of the situation there, because obviously 6 people were killed around 2 a.m. in downtown Sacramento. But obviously a tragedy happens and the left is just going to pounce and they're going to say, law-abiding citizens, your guns, we're going to start taking those away. And also KCRA 3 that I actually interned at when I was in college, local news station there, does a great job. A lot of good people over there. They reported that it was a stolen gun. And about 45 minutes ago, there's an update. They said a 26-year-old has been arrested as one of the suspects. I know they were saying there was maybe up to 3 that they were looking for. DeAndre Martin was along those lines. Your take before we get Paige Rue on.
So just really quick before we get Paige on, this is a different thing. So have you guys heard about the gang affiliation with the people being shot and the shooters? So I didn't hear about that the entire weekend. And usually these things have a pretty consistent shooter was killed or apprehended or, was on a suicide mission of some kind. Not the case in this one. So I got a little curious. The LA Times did a big article and like 7 paragraphs down, they finally said gang related. That's a different thing than what the left is trying to push in the narrative now. So anyways, just to clear that up, this is a very, at least right now, and if that holds, this would be a very different thing than a crazed shooter who has mental problems, which is, again, a different thing.
And obviously that changes their narrative, and that's why we're going to bring in Paige here. And Paige, welcome to TPUSA Live. I want to get your response to this statement from President Biden. How are you doing?
Hi, friends. How are you?
Hi, Paige.
Hi,
Great to see you.
It's Jobob from work.
It feels weird being home and not being on the couch.
I know, that is weird.
I know. I mean,
I want to get your response to this. We're going to start with this, Paige. So this is what President Biden had to say. Obviously, there's a tragedy like I brought up earlier, and he's going to call for gun control. They're going to bring up things like ghost guns and a couple parts of that statement. We also continue to call on Congress to act, ban ghost guns, and require background checks for all gun sales, ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, repeal gun manufacturers' immunity from liability, so on and so forth. What's your reaction?
That, exactly. What's so frustrating, and before I say anything, is one, yes, there is a tragedy that happened and lives were lost. And what's so frustrating to me, especially as a 2A advocate and a firearms instructor and a contributor for Turning Point USA, is that I literally can't even, I maybe can spend a second mourning those lives, and then I have to immediately get back into, I'm defending the Second Amendment and fighting for why this event has nothing to do with the agenda that President Joe Biden is trying to push. Every single event that happened, and the last one was in New York with those 2 police officers, is exactly what you said. Ban ghost guns, require background checks for all gun sales, ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, repeal gun manufacturers' immunity. It is an agenda. And what's interesting is the research that I've done, and I'm going to lay out some facts for you in a second.
Go for it, Paige.
Is all of these facts actually go against his agenda. They do not.
So literally all he can use is some sort of violent crime that happened involving a firearm, and that is the only ground that he has to stand on. So let me throw some numbers at you because it makes me want to shake. And it's so frustrating.
And I got this all from the CDC and Department of Justice. But the CDC in 2019, which is the latest report that they have, is that 39,707 firearm-related deaths occurred in 2019, which also included suicides, unfortunately, but 39,000. People think that it's millions of deaths, and it's not true. You have to look at the numbers. It's so frustrating. Incidents where a firearm was used out of life-saving self-defense actually ranges from 60,000 to 2.5 million each year. And one related to this, because ironically this event had happened in California where they have very strict gun laws. There was another event, a self-defense situation that happened in a jewelry store in California where a law-abiding citizen of California owning the jewelry store, there was 3 gunmen that tried to rob the store. All 3 of them had firearms, pointed the firearm at him and his wife, and he drew his gun and shot at the robbers. Did not hit, did not hurt anyone. The 3 robbers fled. Why is that not being covered?
Yeah, and I think too, we'd love to have a definition of what the left means by ghost guns, because we've talked so much. I've been having you on the couch. You cover this on Reloaded, and they try to redefine so many of these terms. We talked about it so much. AR does not mean assault rifle, and then they're going to bring up things like ghost guns, where it's almost trying to just terrify people. Like, what does that mean? Why do they over sensationalize words like that?
So ghost gun is actually not a term. It's a term that was created by the left. But technically what they're referring to is unserialized firearms, which by ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, it is completely legal to have an unserialized firearm. And what that means is that there are some firearms where you're able to buy, there's a pistol or a semi-automatic handgun has a lower and an upper or a frame, and that part is serialized. And then the slide that goes back and forth is not serialized. So you're actually able to purchase the lower, but it doesn't have any of the parts in it to make the gun fire. So it's just the frame. And what people do is they're able to purchase that and buy the $500 in parts, and it's almost like adult Legos. And you're legally able to do that. It's under ATF that you are able to do that. We actually sell them in our store at Shooters World in Phoenix. What they're canoodling is that, and it makes my brain hurt trying to.
That's a visual representation.
Yeah.
So the left is
they're
canoodling.
doing this, and it's so frustrating. It's so confusing. But basically that is what they're considering ghost guns, but they're also considering stolen firearms. So they're taking these stolen firearms, like you were saying that happened in Sacramento. That firearm was stolen, and which is stolen or purchased on the black market, right? Like, unfortunately, we do have a black market with everything, drugs, whatever. So that, and then they are turning that into banning unserialized firearms that are legal to purchase, and they're meshing those together. So they're completely manipulating the definitions in order to make a legal firearm illegal for a law-abiding citizen to purchase, and completely disregarding the fact that we have a black market and criminals are getting firearms. Because forget that, we just want to ban firearms for law-abiding citizens.
Paige, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this liability concept. You mentioned one of the first things the government does is try to remove any liability protection from gun manufacturers, meaning if you were Smith & Wesson and you made a Smith & Wesson firearm in one of the factories, and then that gun was later used to kill somebody, the company would somehow be able to be found responsible for that. I find it so interesting the government is going after gun manufacturers to remove their liability protection, but they're completely fine keeping that liability protection and that shield for pharmaceutical companies, for big tech companies that silence people. Why does that double standard exist?
I think it just pushes their agenda, honestly, is about like whatever they can do to hold people liable, to push that drama factor that it's the 2A community's fault. It's the gun manufacturer's fault. And they're doing anything and everything to push that. Now with the Remington settled, I think it was like $200 million or something like that, for the incident, that the Sandy Hook incident, that a Remington rifle was used in that event. And I did a little bit of digging on that, because I think that's where the start of it happened. When that news hit came out, everyone was like, justice, like sue the manufacturers. And that's where I started seeing President Joe Biden adding in that removing immunity, because I haven't seen that until that Remington news came out. And actually, when you look at the court documents and what it looked like for Remington, they filed for bankruptcy in 2020 because at that time they had been trying to get this, to get that court case dropped. And finally it was starting to go through. As a business decision, and this is completely from the research that I've done and people that I've talked to in the industry, is that it was a business decision, that it was actually way cheaper to just settle and be done with it than actually go through. Now, I understand the business decision, but I think it was completely wrong to do that, because now you're putting power in
Well, there's legal precedent now, which is the dangerous part.
Well, there's no personal responsibility anymore for anything. Like, that's where, like, there's a tragedy like this that happens, and we're not going to talk about the person that committed the act. And it's the same thing the left's trying to push in so many aspects, where it's like you're an oppressor or you're oppressed, and you can blame something else. Like, so something bad happens, you shoot up a store. It's like, well, if only this manufacturer hadn't have made that gun. It's like, no, you were the person that pulled the trigger there, and people kill people.
Yeah. And so I wonder, so that's just an unworkable situation, right? So Paige, a question I think I have is, do you actually think it's about the guns? Because what they're pushing for, this whole not having immunity for the gun manufacturers, it's not workable, because, okay, so then we can sue car manufacturers if we get in a car accident.
Exactly.
Where does you draw the line there? So, like, the way I'm looking at it, I'm wondering if it even has anything to do with the Second Amendment or anything to do with guns. Because if it did, 18 people were shot in Chicago over the weekend. I don't know if you heard about that.
No.
But why hasn't that been in the news or on their minds constantly? Do you really think it's about guns, or it's more of a political play to push their people more to their side?
I can see where you have that. I think C. I think it's the fact that they're trying to gain complete control. Like, if you want complete control over a country, you take their guns and you control the media. They've got media down, right? They're controlling the media right now, but they're having a very difficult time controlling the guns. But that is their next step in order to have complete control over the United States. And fortunately for us, we have a lot of firearms. We have a lot of law-abiding citizens. And that is why at first, honestly, a year ago, I couldn't say this, where I am now so adamant I will not give an inch on the Second Amendment because of that point. And you have to really read the numbers and see everything that they're trying to manipulate. Even if you don't understand firearms, ask me, ask anyone in the gun industry. We'll give you the facts. We'll give you what we see every day. But I understand they're using the gun as a emotional tool. But I think their overall goal is to just have complete control. Because once we move our guns and have control over the media, I mean, we're sheep.
Working in the industry every day, Paige, are you starting to see the supply chain shortages affect gun parts, guns themselves, and ammunition? Do you think we're going to be in an early 2020 situation where ammo is like impossible to get anytime soon?
Thankfully, no. So we've been seeing some issues, like, for instance, this is a little different, but we are building a third shooting range right now, our third location. We're having issues getting like the metal trusses or the steel trusses for the range. But as it comes to ammo, we're seeing actually an increase in ammo availability, which is really positive. I was just at an outdoor expo in Arizona this past weekend, and I was asking some of the ammo suppliers, and they were like, no, we have warehouses, like, we're doing really well. Our prices are also going down. We used to be, I mean, incredibly inflated because of how difficult it was to get ammunition. We're not seeing that anymore. Our prices are almost back down to normal, which is incredible. The only thing that I could say is that if you wanted to build your own AR or handgun, which you're legally able to do, but if you want parts like that, I do know some companies are having a little bit of issues depending on where they're getting their stuff.
Okay, well, that's good news.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really good.
I love hearing that. I always love hearing you talk about guns, Paige Rue. You're the place to go for all that. And you're working on a new season of Reloaded, right? Can you give us like a little 30 seconds?
Oh my gosh. Reloaded is going to be so different. I'm so excited. Season 1 was very educational. We were just getting our feet wet. Season 2, you are basically following me around. I hope I'm entertaining for you, but it's all about, I'm doing private lessons. You're going to see me teach classes. You're going to see my parents work, basically our entire lifestyle. You're going to see me in a helicopter shooting machine guns. You're going to see crazy stuff. Absolutely too. And I cannot wait to.
Wow, it sounds like Tropic Thunder. I can't wait. This is going to be a good time. Paige Ruth, thanks so much for joining us. And coming up, we got Allie and John James that are going to join us and talk about strong and sexy fit. It's going to be a great conversation about influencer culture and working out, because I could definitely use a little bit more of that for sure. But first, we got some of the spiciest and best podcasts in the industry. It's a lot of fun. I got Breakaway, and we also got this show, Spillover. Check it out.
My mom married a psychopath, and he ended up coming after me and trying to kill me, and I killed him in self-defense. I ended up stabbing him 13 times, I believe.
When your attack was happening, did you feel like you were just kind of quiet in the moment, just in survival mode, or were you yelling out for help?
Oh, you're going to have to go through like moments of like where you wish you were dead. You might want to even be dead because you feel worthless, that your trauma has taken over your whole entire life.
Spillover, you can find that anywhere you view podcasts, on Apple and Spotify, and they're also on YouTube. Always a lot of fun with the spicy Alex Clark. But it's time to talk about strong and sexy fit with John and Allie James. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us on, John.
Well, you guys are the place to go to for anything supplements, anything staying strong and staying sexy.
Yeah,
all right.
That's right.
Obviously, two strong and sexy people right
We
here.
love it. We love it.
She just screams that.
Hey, I'm here too, John.
Oh,
just so you know, I'm also on this couch.
Are you though?
Feel a little inferior, but that's okay.
It's all right. I always feel inferior too. All right. Ever since they sat down here, I'm like, all right, I need to figure it out a little bit. But tell us about what you guys are working on, because you guys are the place to go to, especially over the past couple years. People have been told, like, stay inside, don't work out. So like, how have you been encouraging people? I'll start with you, John, to make sure you're getting out. Here's some supplements. Here's how you can make sure you live a happy and healthy lifestyle.
We started off in 2017 as a fitness company, and then in 2020 that evolved, and we came out with a supplement line. But as far as the advice of staying inside, it's probably the most damaging advice that you could give. Obviously, they've seen a correlation with people having a lack of vitamin D. Now that negatively impacts COVID symptoms. So exercise is definitely a huge element of staying strong and staying sexy and staying fit. And a lack of that is hugely damaging on the immune system, let alone the mental health aspects. So we do encourage people to exercise first. And then obviously we do have a variety of different supplements to complement exercising for the greatest results.
And then talk about how you kind of curate your feed and to curate your business and your personal feed too, to make sure people are going there. It's like, not only do I enjoy this person as just like an individual, but they're pushing me in the right direction to be healthy and fit.
So I think that we really strive to like just share our lifestyle with people. Like we want to share our family, we want to share our authentic selves, and we just incorporate kind of the business stuff into it. Obviously, taking our supplements every day. Not as much working out for me because I recently had 2 kids.
Congratulations on that.
She's getting back to it. She's
Thank
getting
you.
back to it.
Fantastic.
Thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
Before I was working out a lot, so that's kind of when the ebooks that we have started. But yeah, we are doing a lot of supplements now. So just really incorporating supplements into what we're sharing on social media. Yeah.
But I think it goes hand in hand, John. When you are your authentic self and you don't work on scripting content, people really want to support you. I think people are really they're just kind of tired and desensitized to this over perfected imagery that we see on social media. That's so damaging. It's so damaging. So in being our authentic selves, we've seen just an incredible outpouring of support, let alone sharing our conservative values. So
Isabel, you and I were talking about that the
yesterday
other day.
at Topgolf. We were talking about that exact same thing.
It's like so many people, it's like, I mean, just being in the industry for a little while now, like almost about a decade for me, like there's so many people, they want to be somebody they're not. And that might work for like maybe a couple months, maybe a couple years. And then it catches up to you to where it's like, that's just not you. And people are going to enjoy you for that authenticity. And I think too, like that's just the kind of content I feel like you view on TikTok a lot. Like those are the people I want to follow.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
Right. People are definitely more in touch with, who's being authentic and who's kind of putting on a facade for social media.
Yeah, everyone sees through it, and something that I actually get picked on a lot for, I get supported and picked on a lot for, is that my feed isn't like perfect. My house isn't always clean in the background, or like there's things all over the place, but I have 2 kids, like that's normal life. My kids throw things all over the place, and most people can relate with me if they have kids. So I'd rather just share what's actually happening in my house, because I've tried to do like the perfect feed before and like perfect life, but it like catches up so quick, and it's just like,
it's like depressing in your brain.
It
So
totally
it
is.
really
Yeah, it
is.
is.
It's
So
crazy.
I can't do that.
Honing in on this fitness and wellness concept, why do you guys think society is attacking this with every angle they possibly can? You're seeing people with obesity on the cover of fitness magazines. Just recently, we talked about how working out is now considered a far right or like white supremacist thing,
Literally, yeah,
apparently,
this is so
according
true.
to the internet.
Yep, yeah.
Why is our society doing that?
It's funny you say this because I've probably gotten deleted off of
Oh,
Instagram
yeah.
3, 4,
sure,
5
for
times
sure.
because I get so passionate about this subject specifically. I think we just live in a society now that glorifies laziness. And I can't really I can't figure out exactly why that is. I think we're just all really adept in co-signing lazy behavior because it's easier. And I think when you exercise, I think it actually encourages independence. And I think they want less people to be independent because an independent, strong individual is more of a threat to society, specifically the leftist agenda, than somebody who is, okay with sitting on the couch eating potato chips all day. Let's glorify that. But yeah, it's a subject that's gotten me in trouble more times than I can count. Which is why, I have a few different accounts now. But
Smart.
it's a very touchy subject. But, being in the fitness industry, it's a very frustrating thing to see. Very frustrating thing to see.
I'm curious, so kind of piggybacking on that, right? The left is also the sides of the vegans and the people that bicycle everywhere and all of that sort of stuff.
Broccoli pizza.
Yeah, this is
Using
gross.
everything.
Ugh.
Yeah.
In that regard, have you guys seen people that are also taking care of themselves that aren't necessarily on your side politically be pushed over to your side because MSNBCs of the world are calling what they're doing now a right-wing extremist activity?
I mean, there's definitely people who like us and our brand, but don't necessarily agree with our political views. We get that a lot, but
We do.
I don't know. I mean, do you think that it has to do with that?
Maybe somewhat.
Yeah, I'm also
No,
probably.
they're just-
I would imagine that people aren't sending you messages saying, "I used to be a vegan liberal, now I'm a vegan
No, we
conservative."
do get a lot of messages saying though, like, I don't agree with your politics, but like I really like you guys, and I really like you guys
Which
being
is
authentic,
refreshing.
and I really like
Which is
your
refreshing.
company, and like your supplements work great for me. So yeah.
We've actually had messages even more recently of people who purchase product with the intentions of thus filing fraud on it afterwards, started taking the product and loved it so much that they've reached out to us.
No way.
Yeah,
And people
and-
saying that they hate
yeah.
us, but they love our
Yeah,
products. We get
yeah,
that too.
Yeah,
Oh
we
my
do. So
gosh.
it's kind of the greatest compliment you can receive when someone hates you to your core, but loves your products. It's a great compliment.
Yeah.
How do you suggest people share their fitness journey? Because I think there's times where like people are looking for community sometimes online, and sometimes there's some authenticity there where you can have people like kind of like cheering you on. It's like, hey, I started here. Like I've seen some incredible transformations of
Right.
people. So like, how do you guys share that yourselves, and how do you encourage other people when you're going through this fitness journey to build that community around you to encourage you?
I'd say much like we share our lifestyle as authenticity first. It's hard, and a lot of people are discouraged nowadays to share their fitness journeys because they see a lot of influencers and different celebrities share their own fitness journeys that aren't necessarily authentic.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are intimidated to post a 1-month progress photo because in their heads they're expecting to lose 20 to 30 pounds, and then when they don't do that, they're discouraged. But that's the impression that they've been led to believe from a lot of negative influence from social media. So I would say authenticity first. Your journey is going to look significantly different than everyone else around you. So just trust the process.
Yeah. And then I know this is something Jobob was thinking about. He wants to get a body like you, and he's saying, do I just blend every day?
There's surgery that I can get.
that will allow me.
No, not big on surgery, and believe it or not, we eat very freely, John. We eat very freely.
I was totally kidding about
Yeah.
Jobob.
Don't bail me out of this. I said it.
All right, you did.
Okay.
But I think that's where final question here is there's so many people that they try to make it so grand, this whole fitness journey, what I got to eat, and I got to eat a salad every day, and then I got to run about like 4 miles in the morning, and I got to do weights in the afternoon, and everybody like makes it so complicated. And then you got people like Jobob that run like half marathons.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. I heard
this
about
man's
it.
running up
Never
a
ran a
mountain
half marathon in my life.
13 miles this weekend.
That's unreal. That's
No.
awesome.
Well,
That's awesome.
I did create an Instagram account that has my name and then fit at the end of it.
Yeah,
I think
there
that's
you go.
part
You're
of
on
the
the right
journey,
track.
right? That's what I'm
You're on
supposed
the
to
right
do.
track.
Huh.
Yeah, you're
Interesting.
on the
Good
right
to know.
track.
But how do you suggest people to like just have that discipline and like figure out, it's not that complicated to stay fit and stay disciplined?
It's not.
We
First and
overcomplicate it.
foremost is consistency.
Mhm.
Consistency over anything. You take someone who exercises twice a week, 6 hours each session, and that is going to lose compared to somebody who exercises 30 minutes, 5 to 6 days out of the week. It's consistency first. Consistency is key, and anybody can be consistent, right? So the argument of, I don't have the genetics or I don't have the financial capabilities to eat, a salad every day with some fresh chicken on it. That argument, it fails when you just compare it with consistency. So just be consistent. Again, your journey is going to look different, but if you're consistent, like you're going to do it.
And as we wrap this up, where can people follow you guys to make sure they get a great feed that's not as curated as some people want it to be, but it's beautiful and it's authentic and it gives you the tools and resources to get fit?
Yeah.
My Instagram is AllieGreen13.
And mine is at John James 94, and I also have at John James 94 again
Just in
for
case
when
you-
my main account gets deleted, because it will get deleted.
It will.
I'm
It'll
sure.
get
sucked.
That's awesome.
You can always follow their
But-
business account too
yeah.
that I think we're throwing up right now. That is Strong and Sexy Fit. You can also go to their website, strongandsexy.fit. You got to love it. All right, we're going to be right back talking about Elon Musk buying a major stake in Twitter. Hopefully he'll let me in and get me out of Twitter jail. We'll be right back after this.
All right, guys, you have signed up, right? You've joined freedomsquare.com. If you haven't, why not? This should have happened a decade ago. How did somebody not think of this earlier? If you're a business owner, we have a business directory to promote your business to patriots across the nation. So if you want to buy American, if you want to sell American, we have a business directory. Whatever it is, go now.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
Welcome back. We got a massive couch of incredibly strong and sexy fit people.
That's right.
Let's go. So we're going to talk about Elon
And
Musk.
Jobob.
Oh, and Jobob's here.
Wow.
Oh, shoot.
You're lucky you waved there.
Okay, but really, this man ran 13 miles this weekend.
unreal.
I could never.
We were
You
bored.
could definitely do it. You can do anything you put your mind to, right, guys?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Might take
yes.
some time.
Yeah,
This
I
might take some
could
time.
if I had to, but would I want to? Maybe not.
But Jobob, everyone's constantly wondering what's going on with censorship, with social media. Obviously, Twitter's putting people in Twitter jail, like yours truly.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to delete the tweet.
Mhm.
I said something that's factual,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to play by your rules in order to get back in.
Yeah, John Root has taken his place among the Mount Rushmore of people banned from Twitter. There's Charlie Kirk, Babylon B, Tucker Carlson,
Donald Trump.
and
Yeah.
President Trump is also banned.
The OG
I
band.
forget
Yeah.
about that. That
Yeah.
happened so long ago.
I
John Root.
I don't even deserve to be in the same multiverse as those gentlemen.
So it's fascinating. So Elon Musk, so let's take it back a couple weeks, right? Elon Musk has obviously been a Twitter. Do you call him a troll or do you just call him a guy who's really fun? To me, Elon Musk is great to have
He's
because
a fun Twitter troll.
he's the richest person in the world, but he's also super interesting, which is unlike a lot of the old richest people in the world, like Bill Gates, bleh, like Carlos Slim, bleh, like who cares? They're not funny. Elon Musk, on the other hand, is hilarious. I don't know if you guys remember, again, we're getting to the point of Elon Musk buying a pretty sizable share of Twitter. But you guys remember on March 14th, Elon Musk tried to solve the Ukrainian issue. You know how he tried to do that? Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
What did he say?
He was ready to fight.
He
Vladimir
challenged
Putin.
Vladimir Putin to a fight, saying the stakes are Ukraine.
Yep.
Like Jake Paul, Logan Paul, take a hike. We
yeah.
want to see this fight, okay?
Yes.
Please.
Who do you have winning on that card?
Dude, I definitely got Vlad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
Really? I got
he's saying right shirtless on
Yeah.
white
Yeah.
horses.
Yeah.
He's like,
Dude, yeah, but
Yeah.
the guy's freaking strong and sexy.
He's
fit.
like
Yeah,
this
he is.
tall.
KGB.
He's a
This
tiny
isn't even a
person.
question.
He's a tiny person. Elon Musk is like 20 years younger than him. Interesting.
He can't bring his flamethrower out there.
Who do you got?
I would say Vlad.
Oh my goodness! Wow,
let's go.
I'm
Okay.
sad about it, but
I know.
I mean, it's just
I love
being
the energy
honest.
from Elon Musk, but isn't Vladimir like a retired Spetsnaz?
He's 70 years old, people.
Oh.
He's an old man.
So's the Don, and he's basically
Yeah.
in reverse, so that's okay.
Yeah.
So, and in that tweet, he put a tweet thread issuing a challenge to Vladimir Putin, the stakes being Ukraine. He then tagged Vladimir Putin in the tweet, which is interesting. Vladimir Putin is on effing Twitter.
Yeah.
Does anybody
Wow.
see a pretty double standard going on there?
Taliban.
The
Well,
Taliban
Taliban.
too, yeah.
The Taliban, ISIS. John Root is not on
The
Twitter. Charlie
Ayatollah
Kirk is not on
Rouhani
Twitter.
on Twitter.
Tucker Carlson,
man.
not on Twitter. Babylon B. But Vladimir Putin, the guy who invaded an entire freaking country, is on Twitter.
You don't look at me and you're like, that guy's more dangerous than ISIS.
Yeah, it's the hair.
Yeah. Ooh.
So he tagged Vladimir Putin in that tweet, and then a couple days later, he put a poll up saying, "Hey, should Twitter be an open source algorithm?" A bunch of people voted yes, and then people were like, "Wait a minute, is Elon Musk going to buy Twitter, or is he going to start his own social media platform?" So fast forward to today, SEC report filing came out that showed Elon Musk on the day that he challenged Vladimir Putin to a fight over Ukraine, bought a ton of Twitter stock, 9.2% of the entire company to be exact.
Yep.
So that's happening now. So Elon Musk is effectively putting his money where his mouth is and not starting his own thing, but it says, all right, I'm just going to go take over your company. I don't know. Is that what billionaires should start doing now?
Because we've talked about that so much, about like how it's like, I don't like what's going on here, so just go create something different. It's just like, why are you just leaving the fight consistently? And I feel like that's
important too. Don't get me wrong.
Totally.
Creating a space where censorship isn't a problem to begin with is something we should be doing. But the vast majority of humanity, including, I guess, Vladimir Putin, is still on these old platforms. And so I think it's such a mistake to abandon those things. I love that Elon has done this. We threw it up a second ago. Maybe we can throw it back up again. His grand announcement for all this morning was, "Oh, hi, LOL."
He's so epic.
Such an interesting rich guy.
He also did a poll the other day, which I found super interesting, where he was asking people who follow him and everybody else on Twitter, obviously, do they think that there's too much restriction of freedom of speech on Twitter? And then basically subtweeted that himself and said the results of this will be very important later. So this was before this whole announcement came out. I wonder if his whole grandiose plan is to basically hold Twitter hostage as the primary investor of the company now and say, you got to fix your policies. You got to reinstate Donald Trump and John Root and all these other people.
Those two names should not be in the same sentence.
Buddy, I highly doubt you're on that list. But that's
President Trump and John Root.
And we have to be honest with people about what these guidelines actually are, or we're done.
So I'm curious, are you two obviously massive on Instagram? Are you on the other social media platforms?
I have had a Twitter since like.
What about like
back
Getter
in the
or
day.
like Truth Social?
I have a
Truth
Truth
Social,
Social.
yeah.
Parler?
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
We were very excited for the release of True Social.
Yeah.
I've never been on Twitter.
Gotcha.
Lucky man.
Yeah, I don't really
Seems I've
use it.
avoided
It's full of
like,
love
many
and
days.
charm and compassion. There's no mean people on Twitter.
Oh, not at all.
Also, important thing that I thought was super interesting when I started researching this morning, Twitter is a multi-billion-dollar company, obviously. I believe when I looked it up this morning, they were about $13 billion was their worth as a company, which is a huge company, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing with other companies in the social media space is dramatically dwarfing Twitter. And so I think what we've been experiencing is nobody wants to use it because it's kind of old school and you're like, oh, I had Twitter in middle school.
Yeah,
That was not
exactly,
cool,
exactly.
right? But more important than that, they've done so much damage to their user base, censoring people over and over and over again, kicking off the New York Post with this Hunter Biden story. And then several years later, everyone being like, oh, oops, that was the thing. Kicking off everyone over everything about COVID, myself included. I was deleted from Twitter for a hot minute over hydroxychloroquine, which ended up being a legitimate
I can't believe
thing.
you said that.
And so we've lost faith in the process of Twitter, that everybody has jumped ship and gone to the Getters and Parlers and Truth Socials of the world. Meanwhile, TikTok is worth $75 billion as a brand new platform. Facebook, that's amassing pretty much everything other than written text posts, is worth several $100 billion. I believe it was in like the 400 billions when I looked up this morning. And so I think Twitter is really on the way out. I've thought that for a long time anyway. So I'm curious if this purchase from Elon Musk will revive it a little bit and get it back out into the market.
Well, I'm wondering if that's the purpose that these other offshoot platforms are serving. Maybe not necessarily getting everybody over there, because personally, I'm not a big fan of echo chambers. I know a lot of people, if you start segregating people into different apps, you're just going to hear the same thing over and over again, and nobody's going to learn anything. So maybe their function is, in fact, to make these other social media platforms perform the way they do. You talked about being kicked off of, you have been kicked off of Instagram a bunch of times?
5-6 times.
Six
the last
times?
Then the last 365
What did
days.
they cite as the reason?
A lot of times bullying and harassment,
Harassment
but it'll
and
have
bullying,
nothing
and it
to
will
do
have
with anything.
nothing
Like,
to do
there's
with harassment.
nothing.
Because you're fit and
Unbelievable.
sexy people, apparently.
Maybe.
I don't know. I really don't.
Wow.
I mean, we might
completely
feel
logical.
inferior, but I don't feel bullied.
They don't give you a reason for that sort of stuff?
They don't. And the funny thing is, when we get our accounts brought back, we always get an email that says, sorry, this was a mistake.
But it's happened 6
It's
times.
happened
That's not a
6
mistake.
times. And we can't help but wonder if there isn't someone, who perhaps works for Instagram who's doing this behind the scenes. But
You never know.
Have you
But
tried?
it's-
Sorry, continue.
No, it's just, I mean, it happens to so many people now. I mean,
it does. And people are scared at this point.
that's
People
the
are
thing.
scared
Like,
at this point.
it's going to turn into, I think it could turn into what's happened to Twitter.
Oh, I
Really,
totally
because I
agree.
think Instagram is kicking itself. It's doing it to everybody. Everything's getting deleted. Everything's getting removed. People are scared to just post, and that's problematic because then people are scared to be authentic and
Yep.
post what
Yep.
they want. So then we're back to these unattainable, curated lifestyles of perfection. And I literally have had people tell me, like, I don't want to do that because I'm scared to do that, or I just have to stay away from that. Can't talk about that. Can't do this. Like people are
that
scared.
culture
Oh,
of
yeah.
self-censorship is really scary. I mean,
Yeah.
if we
Oh,
can
it's-
convince people to just not say it to begin with or not post it to begin with, even if they're scared, I mean, that is how you achieve like mind control on the macro
Exactly.
level of
100%,
society. It's not even just
100%.
about, oh, we'll delete your account, we'll deplatform you, we'll silence you, we won't publish you. It's literally convincing people in their own brains, I shouldn't even be thinking that or saying it because I'll have all of those things happen.
That's what I feel like every time I go through an airport. So like I feel like it's like a perfect representation of what Twitter's like. You have a
Going
bunch of
through
people
security?
like go and then seeing it mostly like seeing everybody actually going through like aspects of security where it's like, oh, I'm gonna make it like but there's like everyone wearing masks.
Yeah.
Where there's a bunch of people, they look around, they see me walking around, they're like, whoa. Like
You're
there's,
not wearing
there's
one.
some people on the
Yeah.
platform, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that.
Oh yeah.
Like they called out Rachel Levine.
Exactly.
Like that's crazy. And then, but they're just gonna abide by the rules. It's like I don't want to do anything crazy because
Well,
I don't want to get like I want to be able to just like get on my flight or not like have a weird interaction with
Right.
somebody. And that's what I think of every single time I go to an airport. It's like just
Hmm.
live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Speak the
reality is
truth.
too, like the threat is so much greater than just losing your account. You know,
Yeah,
we have a
it
lot
is.
of friends
Oh,
who are
your livelihood.
influencers. Yeah, it's their livelihood.
What-
You're
what's-
essentially getting fired.
What's your, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, like how much is revenue affected when you get your account deleted?
Oh, it's significant.
Wow.
It is significant.
Hmm.
It's I would say in the realm of 50%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So it forces you back on the platform.
I
which
feel
is-
like people don't realize how important influencer culture has become for
Totally.
business as
Yes.
a result. Like
Yeah.
we think of advertising and marketing and we think billboards and
Mhm.
commercials on TV and we think about all the things that we experienced as kids. Now mega companies, like the biggest companies on the earth, aren't going to bother paying for a billboard or a 30-second commercial on TV. They would much rather spend the money on influencers and people who are creating an audience of authenticity on social media because it
Right.
rewards them more as a company. There's usually a higher return on investment there. So really our entire culture has moved towards influencer marketing. And I think we forget that and how devastating
just
that
had
can
this
be for
conversation.
people's
Just
livelihoods.
had
Yeah,
this
and it's
conversation.
interesting because then you've got the whole aspect of, oh, well, this person's been canceled, so I can't work with them. So
Yep.
then you have brands
yeah.
like avoiding people like me.
Oh, yeah.
So you just, and sometimes those can be some of their best sellers.
That's
Like
crazy.
I'm not a huge account, but I do really well because my engagement's so high
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
have such an authentic profile. Whereas somebody who's 3 times my size, they don't have the same viewers that I have.
3 times the size of followers.
Followers,
Yeah,
followers, sorry. 3 times the
Gotta be
size of an
specific. You don't
account.
wanna
An
offend
account, yeah, I don't wanna
anybody.
offend
Don't want to get cited for
Yeah,
bullying.
yeah,
This
exactly.
might get taken
Again,
down,
yeah.
John. Fair
Yeah.
warning.
Fat and ugly,
That's so
lazy.
true.
That's what they call it.
Yep.
Interesting. I wonder, is there any like legal recourse? I don't know if you know this, but you're sitting on the couch with 2 people who almost went to law school.
Yes,
So
indeed.
I watched the Lincoln
Nice,
Lawyer.
very cool.
3 almost went to law
Before I
schools.
met John. I was
There we
gonna-
go.
yeah.
Well, I wonder if there's any like legal recourse because a company just arbitrarily kicking you off a platform and forcing you to lose 50% of your revenue. I feel
Great
like
question.
I don't actually
Honestly,
know.
we're not going to answer it until we figure out Section 230. That's
Yeah,
the part that
yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
Because literally all of
Mhm.
these companies have like a free pass,
Totally.
literally
Oh, yeah.
to subvert subvert the Constitution. That's what it says in the Telecommunications Act. They're like, yeah, you guys don't need to follow the First Amendment. It's fine as long as you just publish that in your community guidelines. What?
Yeah,
That's insane.
Unbelievable.
And like, who's gonna go to war with them? Honestly?
Exactly.
They're like
That's the thing.
a $400 billion company.
It's a great question.
I
That's
mean,
totally
if
fair.
that
Elon
legal
Musk, maybe.
team,
Our crusader to the moon.
Fighting Vladimir Putin and Twitter.
That's why I always go back to, like, you had a lot of viral clips with politicians on the right where it's like, oh, look at me grill Jack Dorsey, and I just grilled Mark Zuckerberg, and I bring up all this Section 230 stuff, and it's like, what did you get other than a viral clip?
Well, they don't want to fix it, John, because Facebook and Meta and Twitter and all these companies donate to both sides of the aisle. We'll
Exactly.
get that.
So that's where I think people need to understand here, where it's people are almost pretending like they're going to do something for you, where they want to get you out of Twitter jail. They want to stand up for free speech, but they're not going to explain to you exactly what Section 230 means. Is a platform or a publisher, and they're going to say like, oh, well, it was written just like, almost a couple decades ago or so, and we don't know, so like we'll figure out at some point, and nothing actually gets done. But they elevate their own platform, and
Maybe
it's
at
ridiculous.
this point, Elon Musk should just be president.
Not legally allowed to. Born in South Africa. You almost went to law school. You should know that.
I know.
I would
well,
love to
maybe
see.
he should crusade for all of these problems that our politicians won't go after. That's a good way to fill that gap. Yeah.
I would love to see Donald Trump just be like another birth certificate thing. It's like, show me Elon's birth certificate too. Actually, everybody. Everybody that's running.
He was born in Africa. That's hilarious.
That's what he should do during the midterms. Everybody's birth certificate on the table. And then we'll talk.
Do you remember the what's it called? What's with the big dinner or the breakfast that all of the White House correspondents did?
Yeah.
When pretty much everybody thought that was the moment that President Trump decided to run for president, when they just made fun of him for like 15 minutes. Like, all right, screw that, I'm taking their job. I feel like that's the same thing that's happened to Elon Musk. He's like being made fun of the entire time. Like, all right, well, I'm gonna go buy your company because I'm worth $200 billion.
Yep.
Huh.
I'm in charge now, baby. That's
What
he's
can we
thinking.
start bullying another rich guy into taking over something that we want?
We might have to think about that over the commercial break. We're going to show you a promo for Young Women's Leadership Summit. We're going to tell you promo codes you can use to get a little discount. Check it out.
And I hope you're filled with courage and conviction, clarity, and a little bit of wisdom. Know that we at Turning Point USA, we have your back.
Well, special shout out to John and Allie James joining us here. Like, if you're not following them already, they are great. They're authentic people in person and online. I think we need some more people like that.
Absolutely.
They had to dip out. They're getting ready for the spillover with Alex Clark.
Ooh,
So it's going to be spicy. It's going to be strong. It's going to be sexy. It's going to be spicy. Heck yeah. So we got time for one last thing. We got Jobob, Isabel Brown. I'm John Roots. Motivation Monday, something we've been
I like this.
throwing in the show.
Okay.
And something that I want to bring up, I'll give you guys enough time to bring up a few of your motivations, or if you want to go off this one. Tiger Woods is making his return to the Masters. Going back to Augusta, the Masters tournament's coming up this weekend, one of my favorite sporting events of the year. And this is a guy that, rightfully so, we were calling him out because he was sleeping around with other people. He crashed his car when he got caught. He's been in a lot of situations that are very unsavory, but he's one of those guys that I think has been able to find some reconciliation with his kids, with his fan base, with the sport. And he had a major accident that happened too right after he went through all these back surgeries. And then once he made his return in 2019, he won the Masters.
That's crazy.
And then now, after this car crash that sidelined him for just about a couple years now almost, he's coming back. And I know they were sharing this video of him and his son Charlie practicing at Augusta. Let's check that out. Man, if that doesn't fire up, I don't know what will. I just like
The golf
golf
over here.
I was gonna say, I don't know.
I'm
Watching
like,
a golfer walk around,
hype
I
video,
guess.
but, like,
I guess
okay,
it's
yeah.
cool.
It's Tiger freaking Woods. Like when you think of golf, you think of Tiger.
That's true.
And it's like the Sunday Red. Like no one is transformed the game in recent history like Tiger Woods. And I think him having to come back here, he's had 14 top 10 finishes in his 23 career starts. He won his first green jacket at 21 years old. I'm so stoked he's back. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think for me, as a former athlete and someone that just loves sports, like I'm like
brutal.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I won't call myself an athlete.
If you're any good,
at
you'll
all.
still be playing.
Washed. But that motivates me, and I'm definitely going to be rooting for him.
I think the biggest thing, right, is can he walk the whole course? Like that, the swing has been fine. There's been videos of people showcasing Tiger's swing since the car accident, but he shattered one of his legs, and you can't ride around Augusta National. You have to walk the whole course. And so what, 36? You're looking at 72 holes he's got to walk. Like
plus some of these practice rounds and everything too.
That's a great question.
Geez, I mean, hopefully, but that's I think the biggest question. Not whether or not he can swing still.
I have several things to say. First thing
about golf.
Just about Tiger Woods.
Okay.
First thing, do you remember when it was like literally the worst atrocity you could possibly commit, cheating on your wife? Like that was the biggest scandal ever in modern sports when we were younger.
Crashed his car in the driveway. Everything is like, I can't believe you do this.
Like everybody was world over. Tiger Woods cheated on his wife. Like this is the end. Now I'm like scrolling through social media and they're throwing abortion showers instead of baby showers. And yes, that's a real thing.
Yep.
Like this is where we're at in society. I wish we could go back to the time where that was the worst thing you could possibly do. But while I may not be the biggest golf fan, I'm getting into it. I didn't grow up with golf.
You
so
did
I'm
a good job at
starting to
Top Golf
appreciate it.
yesterday.
You are being very nice to me. I do not deserve that praise. I did horribly at Top Golf yesterday, but that's okay. I've gone like 5 times and I'm getting better. While I've not grown up with golf, not appreciated it very much, I can say this is a great example of when you can appreciate the athleticism and the excellence of someone, even if you don't agree with all the decisions they've made in their life. And to totally turn this into a Jesus moment, nobody is beyond redemption, right? And this is a really cool visual of no matter what decisions you've made, no matter what the world has thrown at you, no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you always have an option to turn around, walk the other way, and get back up. And I think it's really cool to see someone who has been in situations where he should not have made the decisions that he did, where he has knocked himself way down in terms of public opinion, his capacity to be excellent and to push himself to redefine the game, now has totally redefined himself over and over and over again and is continuing to just get back up. So I think that's a really, really cool image of the fact that anything's possible in America. And beyond that, anything's possible with your life. It's never too low of a point for you to turn around and walk the other way.
Amen to that. And that's somebody that's been hurt so many times in so many aspects of the word hurt. And it's great to see him coming back because this is the tail end of his career. And I think he's going to start. The baton's already been passed to some like younger.
He could have
guys.
15 years left in him. What, Phil Mickelson's 50 years old and won a major last year? Who knows?
Phil Mickelson hasn't had major injuries and major surgeries as much as
I wish Tiger didn't decide to become a Navy SEAL halfway through his career and get super buff and tear all his muscles.
But also Phil Mickelson's someone we're not going to see at the Masters.
Yeah, because, well, do you want to explain the story? It's kind of interesting. Like, well, go ahead. You're the sports guy.
Yeah, like feel free to fill in. Like,
athlete.
Yeah, feel free to like feel free to fill in any gaps at all. Like basically, like he called out the PGA Tour, and obviously that you have the Jack Nicholson is trying to start a brand new Saudi funded and Saudi tour, and so there's been no tour that's been able to keep up with the PGA Tour. It's always just been that. And then obviously you got the British Open, you got all those different events that are around the world, but they're saying like, hey, we can pay you all this money. And I got all this funding here. And people like Phil Mickelson feel like they haven't been treated very well because it's like, oh, you're towards the tail end of your career. And
I had heard it like his idea was, wait, the Saudis? You guys are getting involved with the Saudis, the same people that if you're gay in Saudi Arabia, the penalty could be death. The same place also where Disney is releasing a streaming service, not to mention the whole Florida situation. But that's like, in Phil Mickelson, I thought, and I could be wrong about the story, was taking a stand for freedom.
Yeah, he basically said, like, you guys are basically supporting, like, without saying terrorists, it's like crazy people over there. And then they're just like, I can't believe you'd say that about all Saudis or all Middle Easterns. It's freaking crazy. But Tiger, good luck at the Masters. Jobob, Isabel Brown, thanks so much for being here. John and Allie James, thank you for joining us too. Paige Rue, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
China lied, people died. You think we're the only economy that China wants to see fail?
You haven't been paying attention.
Remember all your online purchases? But really, we're the product. Am I the only one who wants to know why the rich got so much richer? Are you still with me? Because it gets worse.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, powered by Turning Point USA. We are coming to you live from the Phoenix, Arizona studios, the free state of Arizona. Turning Point USA, we're at the mothership this week. So today's top stories: new texts reveal, and this is a Human Events exclusive, Disney cast members are in favor of the Florida anti-grooming law. We're going to break it down next. The Wall Street Journal reporting that Zelensky refused to drop Ukraine's NATO bid in the run-up to the war. Third, Viktor Orban declares victory in Hungary elections. And then finally, COVID-19 cases rise as 26 million people are put under lockdown in the city of Shanghai by the CCP. All this and more ahead, Human Events Daily. So late last week, a internal staffer at Disney reached out to me. This is someone that I've talked to from time to time again over the years to give me information about what's going on inside Disney, what's going on the ground. And specifically, this is someone who works as a cast member. So Disney doesn't call their employees, they call them cast members, right? So these are the people that you see at the parks, or if you're going down to Orlando, they have the sort of like the first floor. If you guys don't know how that works at Disney World, there's all of Disney World in Orlando, right, is set up one story higher than the rest of the entire park. And so downstairs, they have this whole first floor, which is essentially tunnels under the Magic Kingdom and everything else for workers, for logistics. That's why you don't see, trash trucks driving around, food trucks, that kind of stuff. That all takes place on the lower level. And there are thousands and thousands of people working there every day, right? For them, this is work. They want to provide a great amusement park, a great experience for everybody, a great time. Here, though, are some of the messages that were leaked to me from an internal message board on Disney, all about this new law, Disney's new stance on this anti-grooming law, the fact that Disney is getting so political. And so just look at some of these comments, and there's so many of them. Go and read the articles up at postmillennial.com. We've got everything. I'm not going to be able to read them all here in the limited time that we have, but messages like, let children be children. Most everyone is ignorant as to what the actual wording of the bill says and who it applies to. It doesn't apply to gay or trans. It applies to the education system. The governor of Florida, along with the state legislature, felt compelled to write a bill that gave the rights to parents of raising their kids, as well as regulations to our school systems. If kids ask about sex, then I believe it's the parents' responsibility and discretion. But also, if teachers are asked from the students, then the teachers need to communicate it to the parents, as noted in the bill. So what it does, it obviously sets up this guidelines, a way essentially for teachers to be able to get to the topic. And keep in mind, we're talking about the youngest of the young children here. We're not talking about 8th graders. We're not even talking about 5th graders, right? This is 3rd grade and under that people are talking about here. 3rd grade all the way down to kindergarten in this case. And so when you're looking at this situation, you're never going to hear, the cliche, the mainstream media is never going to admit what's actually going on. They're going to keep telling you that it's all about, you're not allowed to talk about this, and this is banned and that's banned. That's not what it is at all. But I want to give you a video here. Play this clip of the president of Disney talking about this.
I'm here as a mother of two queer children, actually, one transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. I feel a responsibility to speak, not just for myself, but for them. To all of us, we had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years, where one of our execs stood up and said, you know, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, oh, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads.
I want to read you one more of the messages from a Disney cast member on the internal message board. This guy wrote, I support the bill. I'm gay, and I think any form of sexual education shouldn't be taught until you're older and able to understand it. Not when you're young and influential to the people who are teaching you. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't have teachers imposing their own personal beliefs. But this world is imperfect, and it does and has happened in other states. Children kindergarten through third grade are learning basic skills still. How to read, write, count, socialize. They don't even start going through puberty until maybe fourth grade at the earliest. So leave any bill alone, because it isn't infringing on any member of the LGBT community or the heterosexual community. If you think it is, then maybe the issue lies with you wanting children to be involved with sexual things before they are physically and mentally ready for it. And then there's just people responding, saying thank you for talking about this, and saying, you know what, Disney should stay out of politics. So understand, nonsense.
Requested them personally to say directly that we are going to accept you into NATO in a year or 2 or 5. Just say it directly and clearly, or just say no. And the response was very clear. You're not going to be a NATO or EU member, but publicly the doors will remain open.
So there's President Zelensky of Ukraine explaining that from the jump, there was this public plan to tell people or act like Ukraine was about to join NATO, when behind the scenes, he already knew it wasn't happening. Well, here's an interesting tidbit that the Wall Street Journal buried in their reporting last week, but people like Aaron Mate have done the work of pulling it out. Listen to this. After the German chancellor returned to Berlin, far more worried than left this. Let me set the stage. This is 1 week before the war began. This is when that Munich conference was going on. This is when all the negotiations were happening. Vice President Harris flies over to Munich, is trying to get some sense of peace talk, some sense of a deal being done in terms of all of this. I remember back in that same time period, I actually did an interview with Congressman Dan Crenshaw. And I said, I think Putin wants a deal. I think they want neutrality for Ukraine. I think we should negotiate and try to find a peaceful way through this situation, right? That's the thing I said right before all of this dropped. So listen to the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Scholz, so that's the Chancellor of Germany, Mr. Scholz, Olaf Scholz, made one last push for a settlement between Moscow and Kyiv. He told Mr. Zelensky in Munich on February 19th that Ukraine should publicly renounce its NATO aspirations and declare neutrality as part of a wider European security deal between the West and Russia. The pact would be signed by Mr. Putin and Mr. Biden, who would jointly guarantee Ukraine's security. Mr. Zelensky replied that Mr. Putin couldn't be trusted to uphold such an agreement and that most Ukrainians wanted to join NATO. His answer left German officials worried that the chances of peace were fading. What does it mean? It means that neutrality was on the table and it ended up being rejected. And it ended up being the same, well, we can't trust you, we can't trust them, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we have to use deterrence. Why wasn't it even tried? Why weren't negotiations actually tried beginning of this? And when I see these images coming out of Ukraine from day one, not just yesterday, not just over the weekend, I mean from day one, and you see all of this happening, right? I get it. Both sides have their grievances. One side attacked another. They said they felt threatened, right? The West, the Biden family, the Clinton family, they were stealing with both hands
inside Ukraine. The corruption is off the charts. But my question is, what about the people? What about the people who are there on the ground that apparently don't have any say in any of this? Were they asked? Were they asked, do you want war or do you want peace? And so when people come and they turn around and say, oh, well, look